going on, everybody? It's me coming to you from Hog Holler, Tennessee. Actually, I'm right next to the apple barn, right along the Little Pigeon River here. But I'm gonna tell you a story. It comes from my dad's side of the family. I don't tell you much from his side. I wasn't as close to his side of the family as I was on my mom's side. He had mostly all brothers, I think maybe one sister, and just wasn't around them a lot. They moved off in the 40s and 50s from around here. There wasn't a lot of work to be done, so they moved up north to Cleveland and Bluefield and Richmond, and a lot of them went to the coal mining places up in Harlan and Hazard, different places to find work. So they kind of scattered out and seen them on reunions and stuff. But I did know the old man that I'm going to tell you a story about that happened to him. And actually there was a magazine that picked the story up in the mid-70s or early 70s. I don't know if it's Reader's Digest or maybe it's Newsweek. I can't remember now. I was so young when all this took place that I can't remember exactly how it goes, the exact facts, but I can tell you what I do remember. So he was my dad's cousin, first cousin, and he was a lot older than my father. And he moved to up above Harlan, Kentucky to do some coal mining. And he done that most of his life and got black lung and everything else that goes along with that. And he finally moved way back in the hills, back in Blue Ridge Parkway there. And he had 2 daughters that I can remember. And he got way back there away from everybody, just way back in the mountains. And his oldest daughter got to where she would come and visit him. Sorry about the cars going by, I'm right along the road here. And she went and visited him, and he started telling her these stories. And he started telling her that he would go out into the woods in the middle of the night, and these people would visit him, these little people. And he never claimed that they came from space, I don't think. I think he just said to her that they came out of the woods and came from out of nowhere. But he got to telling her all the time how these people were visiting him and telling him stuff that was going to happen in the future. And they were telling him some pretty shocking stuff. And some of it has come to pass when you start putting it together. He couldn't make sense of it then. Stuff like the government would make contact in the desert with their kind. And of course, you know, people induced that to Area 51. There was something about the 2 tall twins that would fall down and hurt and kill a lot of people. And of course, you know, we know what that is now, but I remember my dad talking about that, not knowing, you know, nobody knows any twins in our family. You know, it's kind of weird at the time. And I don't remember exactly how he quoted it because I was so young. It was something to that effect. And there's another quote that he made that's quite shocking that I really don't want to quote because it's just not something that I'd want to put on here. I may put it in the comment section. But anyway, so he got to telling his daughter about all these visitations that he was having of the nighttime from these people, these little people. So she just assumed that he was talking about people from outer space, and he may have been. So she thinks, well, my dad's getting the onset of dementia, and a lot of times that happens at the nighttime, the beginning of it with sundowners. That's what my dad had. And so she was going to put him in an old folks home. She made that decision. So when she goes to see him the last time, he tells her that they have inserted something in his neck right under the skin, and it's causing some pain and discomfort, and it's been there a while. And of course she doesn't really take him seriously. Nobody believes him, so they take him to a home somewhere in Kentucky. And he tells them at the nursing home, tells them all the stories, tells them about the thing inserted in under his skin in his neck. Of course, they don't believe him neither. So he stays there for a couple of months or so, and he leaves, or escapes, I guess you'd call it. Anyway, he gets out of there, and he's found walking down the side of the road several miles away, and he's taken to Louisville Hospital, of all places, and he is seen by doctors there. At this point, he's very dehydrated, and the doctors are treating him, trying to find out who he is and where he came from. And in the meantime, he's telling them he's got this pain in his neck and it's killing him. And they do either x-ray or CAT scan. I don't think he tells them the story, because he realizes at this point they won't believe him. So they remove something from his neck that looks like, what I was told, was a pellet from a BB gun. That's kind of what it would resemble. So they take that out, and then they let him know that they found out that he had run away from an old folks home. They found out who he was, and they had found his daughter, had been looking for him, and she was coming up tomorrow to take him back to the old folks home. So the next day comes, and that morning the daughter comes in and says, "I'm here to take my father back to the home. I'm his daughter." She comes into the room, and he immediately starts screaming that he doesn't recognize her. And she says, "Dad, please don't do this. Don't make this any harder than it has to be." She apologizes to the doctors and nurses and explains that he has these bouts with dementia sometimes, and he gets this way, and that's why she's had him in a home. And she brings somebody with her, a couple of guys from the nursing home, and they all seem to have their credentials together. And he explains to the doctor that he's not crazy. He knows who the president is at the time. He knows who won the World Series, and he does not recognize these people. But they sedate him, give him a shot, and she takes him away early that morning. Well, later on, I'm sorry about my allergies, by the way. I don't mean to be sniffing like that, but I really can't help it. So later on that day, about 2, 3 o'clock, his daughter shows up, and she explains to the staff that she's there to take her father back. And they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute. This can't be right. Let's get the doctor in here." Gets the doctor in there. The doctor explains that someone showed up this morning with your name and with the nursing home staff and removed your father. And she said, "That's impossible. It wasn't me. Couldn't have been me." So he said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but he's gone. He's already been taken away. He's not here anymore. They have took him. You need to check with the old folks home. Maybe your other sister had come and got him, unbeknownst to you." Well, she thought maybe that's possible. This is back before cell phones were around, and at this time her and her sister wasn't speaking to each other. So she goes back and finds her sister, and back to the old folks home. "No, he's not there. We didn't send nobody. We know nothing about it." So her and her sister both, that's not speaking, turn around and go back to Louisville and demand to see the checkout sheets that these people signed. And at this point, there's no checkout sheets, and there's no record of him ever being in the hospital. And by the way, the piece that was removed from his neck, the woman that come there with him that was supposed to be his daughter asked if they could take that with him. Now this story is strange, but very true, because I know the old man. I knew him when I was younger. And the daughters used to come to our family reunions. And I guess the last time we had one was 78, 79. It's probably the last time I saw him. And he still hadn't been found. There was no record of him ever being admitted into the Louisville hospital, and no record of him ever being signed out by anybody. The last record of him was where he escaped from the nursing home. And as far as they're concerned, he was never found from that point on. So that's where his story ends. So that's a story from the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's a mystery, and like I said, I think it was Reader's Digest that done a story on this back in the mid to late 70s. And I also think that if I remember what she was telling us, of course I was young at the family reunions, I just kind of sat and listened, that one of these shows, like the Twilight Zone, the Outer Limits, they had approached her, they had read about this story and approached her to do an episode about this, and she had turned them down. So they let her know they didn't need her permission anyway if they changed the names. Whether that was ever done or not, she said she don't know. She never saw anything, and I haven't neither, so I don't know if it's ever done or not. But that was way back in the mid 70s. But yeah, that I never seen that old man again. He come to a few reunions when I was younger, and he'd come visit my father when I was real young. And I can remember my father on the phone, and he would call his dog, the man's daughter, ask if she'd ever heard anything. No, never been found, never been seen again to this day, never been seen. So that's our story for tonight. But I think that's a awful weird and wild story, and like I say, that comes from my dad's side. He didn't have a lot of spooky stuff happen on his side, although there was a lot happen with his mother on his mother's side, but nothing quite like what happened on my mother's side and the stuff that they experienced on her side. But I'll leave in the comments one of the predictions that was kind of disturbing that I can remember, that he said these little people or these aliens actually told him. I remember some of the other ones, something about mountains, and a lot of them made no sense, stuff about lines, and then there was other ones that panned out that made sense. There was one that stands out particularly to me that was kind of disturbing. So if you don't, and it'd probably bother you too, so if you don't want to know what it is, I advise you not to seek it out. But I'll get back on here and throw some more stories your way. I almost got busted on here. I had a few people ask me on my personal Facebook channel if this was me, and they had posted a couple of my videos on my Facebook channel, which I had to say no and delete them. And it's been a while since I've made a video, so if that keeps happening, I may have to disappear for a little while. But anyway, guys, hopefully that won't happen, and hopefully I can get back in here since it's October and tell y'all a few more stories. Until then, we'll catch y'all later.